the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Must act now. Take a mask. Protect yourselves. Thank you, doctor. The fire is spreading. Masks for everyone. Hurry. Stay healthy. We gotta fight this thing, man. It's everywhere, like fire. We can do this. Look at the fireman and the little spiky dudes. Whoa.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. Amy Acton, the lady who's trying to run for governor in Ohio, I've never liked her. I have very little good to say about her, and I haven't thought about her much, but I did. We do have a primary coming up in Ohio, and the election is coming up for governor of Ohio, and she's running for governor of Ohio. Democrats talked her into it I think it was a horrible idea because she got rained out of the DeWine administration because of her COVID policies. People were really mad at her. She's a lockdown lady, but I guess I try to put her out of my mind since that terrible 2020-2021 period where she was the health director of Ohio and set policy under the DeWine administration. God knows why DeWine put her in there. She was an abortion supporter. Governor DeWine liked to think that he was reaching across to work with Democrats so he could build coalitions. So he put a Democrat on his staff, be her health director. And when Dr. Fauci came along with all his Fauciisms and the CDC and all that nonsense, total mishap on everything with COVID. She really made a fool of herself. And she showed just how dangerous a government out of control can be. And DeWine, it took him a lot to try and make it up to Republicans because he shut down the state of Ohio and under her advice. And she took advice straight from Dr. Fauci. Of course, now we know Dr. Fauci. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on at the Wuhan lab. There was gain of function research. Bill Gates was involved. He planned stuff with Jeffrey Epstein. This isn't conspiracy. This is true. These are things that actually happened. And it's so horrible that this bioweapon that was created through gain of function, which essentially took a virus that was only passed around through bats and made so it could be transmissible among humans. So when Amy Acton went out as health director around Ohio and yacked about, we're under a pandemic, we have to get rid of COVID and all these things, she totally ignored the fact that the virus was made artificially, sent from China to the United States, brought in as a bioweapon to essentially shut down the economy for a great reset, which is being orchestrated at the World Economic Forum. All those are facts. A lot of people have written about them. And because the people who were most complicit in it can't afford to go to jail over it, they tried to stonewall the investigations and rule everybody out, the conspiracy theorists that have said anything about it. But now, 6 years later, 2026 from 2020, it's pretty well known what happened. Bobby Kennedy, now in the Trump administration, Democrat that's moved over into the Trump administration, wrote a couple great books on the whole COVID experience. So the information is out there. The Trump administration knows about it. Everybody in Congress knows about it. Senate knows about it. Everybody knows. Judiciary knows about it. I guess Democrats hope that everybody will forget. So for some reason, they thought that the one of the worst people in the United States and had the governor's ear at the time, Amy Acton, they want to make her, they think she's their best bet to be the governor of Ohio. And I think it's absolutely bizarre that she's under consideration. She's probably the worst person, and her track record is horrendous. And why anybody thinks that people love her, the safe blanket of big government that will put their arm around you and take care of you when you're sick. People are being reminded of just how bad she was, and Democrats put her through this ringer. So a couple things happened this last week. I happened to be in Columbus, and within a couple days of each other, I talked to Mike DeWine, Governor DeWine. He's the present governor. And we talked a little bit about policies and what went right and what went wrong during his 8-year tenure. And COVID obviously was something that went really wrong. He lost in the courts when it was challenged for good reason, because everything he was doing under her advice was unconstitutional to a supreme degree. There was at no point during those lockdowns where, and I knew better, and Supreme Court knew better, and a lot of people who are very smart challenged DeWine in court, and of course DeWine lost. So he had to open the state up, and people wanted Amy Acton. They wanted somebody's hide for all the pain that she brought Ohio, so she resigned under great turmoil and hid away for a few years, only to come back out for this governor run. So I was talking to DeWine about the good and the bad, and her, and he's endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay, people make big mistakes, and he's come out and endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. And a couple days later, I talked to Vivek Ramaswamy, the future governor of Ohio, and we talked about Amy Acton, of course. And up to this point, Vivek Ramaswamy he's a super nice guy. He's playing super above the rim, high ball, not trying to get down in the trenches. And he's like, what do you think? I was like, why? I think you should body slam her and dunk her with a spectacular March Madness alley-oop. She's an absolute disaster and a wreck. And he's like, he wants to be a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He wants to play well with everybody. And if he can, he will. Because that's just the way he's just a smart, nice young man who wants to do good things. And he doesn't really want to beat the heck out of somebody. But I told him, hey, she deserves it. She shut down our economy, and we're still bleeding from it. We're still recovering from the economy that she torpedoed because Mike DeWine put her on his administration. And Dr. Fauci, CDC, the Wuhan lab leak, all these maniacal characters that were orchestrating this bioweapon with gain of function research that should have never been done. But everybody knew about it, and we were funding it, and we let China do what they did. And it's terrible. And I don't think she's smart enough to have been complicit in that. I don't think she got a text from Dr. Fauci or Bill Gates saying, hey, lock down Ohio so we can have net emissions from fossil fuels. Keep everybody locked down in their homes, social distancing. I don't think that happened. I think she got a memo from CDC, and she's like, oh, I'm a health director. I can follow instructions, and I'm going to follow it. And I'm going to cite Joseph Campbell. Everybody needs to have a hug, get around a campfire, support each other. She sounded like a hippie at the Grateful Dead concert that's been whacked out on drugs for several days when she was giving these speeches, and she was appalling. Now she's running for governor. But Don Jr. is not afraid to play ball in a good way, and I like Don Jr. quite a lot. And he came out and reminded everybody how bad Dr. Acton was in Ohio in ways that everybody else wants to play nice. Don Jr.'s not willing to play nice, and that's why I love him. So he came out and reminded everybody of the stupid comments. Because you got to understand, in the South, Vivek Ramaswamy, in South Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy is going to easily win by, 15, 20 points, I would say. South of Columbus. North of Columbus, it's probably leaning in Amy Acton's favor because there are a lot of Democrats up there. There's a lot of union people up there. But the numbers won't be as big of a delta as it is in the South. So Vivek Ramaswamy should win without a whole lot of problems. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to have great engagement. People have to go out and vote. You can't take anything for granted, all that stuff. But precinct for precinct on paper, Vivek Ramaswamy's, and I told him, he's like, what do you think? And I was like, I think you're going to have a new mop in your house, and it's going to be Amy Acton upside down. And when you need to clean up some little spill or something that the kids drop on the ground, you'll use her to mop it up. because that's all she's good for. And that's how this, he's going to mop her up, I think, in the election. But that's the future. You got to deal with in the trenches. You got to win primaries. You got to have good engagement. You got to spend the money and go around and talk to all the people and you got to run a campaign. And he's can't take anything for granted. But Don Jr. wanted to remind everybody in the North of all the dumb things that Amy Acton said when the Cleveland Browns are trying to reopen their NFL season. And if you remember how horrible that was, when the NFL couldn't start their season, people couldn't go to the games, there were empty stadiums. It was absolutely ridiculous. And Amy Acton was part of that cabal. She made it happen by giving people like Dr. Fauci autonomy that she would follow his instructions, and other states would be pressured to do the same thing. So in Ohio, it's full lockdowns. It was almost straight out of Dr. Fauci's mouth, straight into Amy Acton, who was empowered to basically enact Dr. Fauci policies that were wrong from the beginning. CDC was out of their minds. World Health Organization was corrupt and right in bed with the China, and what China wanted to do is torpedo the American economy, and they released a virus with a lot of complicity to do it, a bioengineered weapon to shut down the American economy during an election year. A lot of horrible things that went on with that. So Don Jr. put out some wonderful replies, tweets. I guess they were little memes that Amy Acton had put out to people wanting to go to Cleveland Brown games to remind them that how much pain they went through was because of her. So here's one tweet where the Cleveland Browns fan was wanting to ask when can the NFL reopen, and she put a little thing out to remind everybody, please social distance. That's why people couldn't, sit next to each other in the stadiums and amusement parks. You had to sit like 3 seats apart if they wanted to be open at all. Some of the biggest amusement parks that we have in the world are in Ohio, and both of them were shut down. I remember it was so pathetic. We went to Kings Island one time that year because it was such a miserable experience. We lived near Kings Island. It was such a miserable experience. It wasn't any fun. Couldn't ride anything. Rides were horrible. Attendance was down. Couldn't buy anything. It was horrible. It was because of Amy Acton. It was her policies. So she's told them when they were talking about trying to get back and get the Browns season open, she's like, please social distance. And then she said, please follow CDC guidelines, which at that time, that late when this was about Baker Mayfield being the new quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And people were talking about the game, and she chimes in to remind everybody, the mama state is here to look over your shoulder. Make sure you follow CDC guidelines, even if they're wrong. And they turned out to be grotesquely wrong. She deleted all these, and people have resurrected them. That's why Don Jr. put them out, to remind everybody who Amy Acton was and what she stands to do. You want this lady as governor? I don't think so. Oh, and then she said, as people were talking, Browns fans were talking about, is Baker Mayfield going to be a good quarterback? She chimed in on this dialogue saying, we should be discussing ways to prevent COVID. Well, we should have went after Dr. Fauci. We should have went after Bill Gates. We should have went after the Wuhan lab. We should have went after China for releasing a gain-of-function weapon that destroyed our economy, or tried to anyway. That's how you prevent a COVID. You don't let a bunch of mad scientists make it in the first place and then spread it as a bioweapon to shut down economies. And we still haven't talked about that. Well documented. Pick up a book sometime on what happened with COVID. And the information is voluminous. We've had a few hearings in Congress on it. People know it's been widely talked about, but nobody wants to admit they got suckered big time. And Amy Acton wanted to tell people who just wanted relief from it, they wanted to say, hey, we want to talk about football. And she's like, we should be discussing ways to prevent COVID, socially distance, and make sure you stay home and don't go to work and work from home. That's the way the new world has to be. What a lunatic she turned out to be. And then when someone said, a Browns fan said on Twitter, the only fun part of the quarantine Oh, the only fun part of the quarantine is something about going to the games, and we can finally go to a game. And she said, "Please stop," as if they're trying to break this. Everybody wanting to stay home and break the social distancing things because they wanted to go to a game and watch football. She said, "Please stop. You're influencing people in a bad way." And then she turned around and said, "We are in a pandemic. This is a crisis. We have to manage it." And then she said another tweet, "Grow up. Hashtag stay at home." And then there were people who were saying that they were hoping the Browns were going to go to the Super Bowl that year. And you know what she said? No, don't do that. There's too many people at the Super Bowl. You're going to spread COVID. This is the lady who wants to be governor. Complete lunatic. Oh my gosh. Oh, and here's another one where people were criticizing the mask policies. Browns fans, they didn't want to go to the football games and wear the mask. And she says, this is a lady who wants to win the North, and she wants to attack sports, which is all they have going on in the North. It's the only good thing there is sports. The only thing they had to look forward to. She said, "We need masks and more PPE, not jerseys." That's what she said. She said all this on Twitter, and she deleted it later because it really came back to haunt her. But people had captured the screenshots, and now she's running for governor. They've come back to surface. That's the lady who wants to run the state of Ohio. And if you get some crazy lunatic in charge of the CDC again, or the World Health Organization, God forbid we ever find ourselves affiliated with that, or maybe somebody from China says, we need to release another virus and shut down the world so we can get a competitive edge on our rivals. She'd be the first idiot to sign up for it, because she was that time, and DeWine was very naive in letting her just run the country or run the state into the ground. And slowly people opened up. Slowly states like Florida got with the program and started opening up at Ohio, Brashear down in Kentucky. A lot because DeWine let Amy Acton run wild. A lot of states were emboldened. Illinois was, Pennsylvania was, New York was. They were emboldened for full shutdowns because of Amy Acton following Dr. Fauci's policies verbatim, right off the memo, right off the CDC recommendations, which were pretty much written by Dr. Fauci and the people who were responsible for the gain of function at the Wuhan lab that released the virus to control the economy and torpedo our society and put us all through that garbage. And Amy Acton played a major role in it. Thank goodness Don Jr. was willing to put out and remind people why Amy Acton was such a diabolical disaster. And this is exactly why Democrats were completely stupid to put her out there. I guess they thought that this wasn't going to happen, that people were going to play in some nice little sandbox. And back on the Vivek Ramaswamy deal, he doesn't have to go out and be a meanie. He doesn't have to run in a megaphone way and pound her to the ground and make a mop out of her. Although that's what I suggest. He's got people like Don Jr. who'll do it. He's got people like Trump who'll do it. And he's got other people who will certainly go out and advocate for Vivek Ramaswamy. He doesn't have to get his hands dirty and all that. And he doesn't need to. He can if he wants to, but he doesn't need to. Because she's bad enough all on her own. And there's a lot of people who are going, especially the Republican Party. She's the lockdown lady. And I've been saying it for a while. It's catching on. People have been saying it. And that's the best way to sum her up. She was, what did she do that anybody liked? She had Democrats, a bunch of zombies who were scared of their own shadow, who liked big government and voted for big government. And they liked Amy Acton because she gave them that warm blanket of being afraid of COVID. But history has not judged those people very well. And some of those people still exist, and they still exist in the North somewhat. And like I said, the North and the South of the state of Ohio might lean a little Democrat north of, but it really comes down to the margin. How much does she carry that by? There's some recent polling that shows her a little bit up. I guarantee you that polling came from areas where they know that she's up, so it's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. When you go into the South, that's Vivek Ramaswamy country, and you keep a big margin there, it will offset the North. That's usually the way it is on election night when you start seeing like the cities come in, like Cleveland, Akron, Cuyahoga County in general, very liberal, big union area. You see the cities, the Hamilton County, just the Cincinnati region. Those come in usually first, and you'll see that the Democrat usually surges ahead by 13, 14 points. And then all the rural areas come in, all the other areas in the state of Ohio, especially the South and especially the Southeast, where people don't really think too much about the voting base because they think it's very rural, but there are places that are well populated and they vote. They vote. And they drive around with trucks with big Trump flags on the back and American flags off the tailgate, and they go and vote. And they vote for Republicans. And if it's a MAGA Republican, they vote even more. So the South, the East, and the West definitely favor Vivek Ramaswamy by quite a lot. And the North maybe favors Amy Acton by a little, but not enough to cover the margin of the South. And that's how it stacks up, and that's how it's likely going to go. The fight you have to have is you got to make sure that the margin of the North does not gain a little bit more to offset the margin of the South. That's the tricks here. But in general, it doesn't look to be the case. But it still means you got to, she put herself out there. She's the one who decided to run, let these Democrats talk her into it. She should have just stayed in the basement and licked her wounds the rest of her life for how terrible she was in the state of Ohio, and hope that when she goes to Walmart, nobody recognizes her. Now she wants to be governor, and she's got it coming. And all this is going to come out in droves for now the election. And, we tried to warn her. I have no care for her whatsoever. But even I wouldn't want to see her ridiculed the way she's going to be. But she walked into it, so have at it. Enjoy. It's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Good Fighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Vote for Vivek Ramaswamy. And when you see Amy Acton, remember. Until November, she's the lockdown lady. And she locked down Ohio. She destroyed a lot of people's lives. She killed people with terrible policies. She followed straight out of Dr. Fauci. And a corrupt China government that released a gain-of-function virus as a bioweapon to destroy our economy. And she played a huge part in it. Never forget. Well, have a good day.
Amy Acton is the lockdown lady. Thank you for listening.